Hello, David, and
Hi.
thank you for hosting us here in Bern, Switzerland
You're welcome.
during the Data Community Conference 2024.
Right.
DBI Services is announcing YaK, do I pronounce that
Correct.
correctly?
Yeah.
2.0.
Yeah, correct.
So before we dive into that, new features and everything that's going on with YaK, could you start by explaining what YaK is, what it does, and why customers should buy it?
Sure. So the idea behind YaK, basically we have two of them. First one was everything around automation. Nowadays, whatever you look, for me, I'm more coming from the database side, for instance, but you can talk about DevOps, you can talk about whatever area. They all speak about automation, they all need that, which makes sense because all the deployment part isn't the most valuable part. So you can focus on more interesting stuff or more added value stuff, such as tuning, for example, improvement, and so on. So the first thing was really to bring this automation layer everywhere. Not only in DevOps, not only in database, but really for everything. That was the first part. And the second part comes from our thinking about platform approach. During several years, we spoke about cloud, and we were mainly speaking about to which cloud should I go? And for us, the answer is more which cloud and maybe even on-prem solution should we mix together to get the right architecture we need. And so our idea is, okay, let's do automation, but let's do it for multi-platform. And that's what YaK brings. It allows you to deploy going from instances, servers, on-prem, on several clouds, and then on top of those servers to deploy what we call components, which could be a database, could be a Kubernetes cluster, or whatever. That's everything which is behind the story, basically.
Okay, that's really interesting, and kind of already goes into the next question. So, the typical use cases for YaK. Can you explain a little bit more about that? Who are the primary users, the personas, and I would kind of like to hear something about, okay, how do they leverage the YaK tools that they get from you or
Sure.
from DBI Services?
There's indeed no really limitation about the person and the use case, because like I said, automation is everywhere. But you have some typical cases. The first one is typically development environment, where you want your developer, they are in this DevOps approach, they're doing some automatic testing and stuff like that. So they need maybe to provision a Postgres database, to provision web application server and stuff like that. So with YaK, you can automate that, integrate that into your pipeline, and provision your environment on demand for your developer. They can run their testing, they can destroy everything at the end, also to manage your cost, typically, especially if we speak about cloud. And of course, you have also use cases which are maybe more basics, where in a larger company, where you have maybe some more silos, and you have a kind of operation center that provisions a new production environment according to some templates, to some standards, new testing environment. Then you can provide to those operators, because they cannot manage all technology which are behind Postgres, Oracle, Kubernetes, Tomcat, GBoss, and so on. You provide them one tool which allow them to do that on whatever the platform, whatever the technology behind. So it's really bringing automation to almost everyone.
Okay, very good. So you're announcing YaK 2.0. What announcements are really important?
Yeah.
And what does that mean for your current customer base, but also for the ones that will be looking at the videos, the ones here at the event? Why should they buy it because of YaK 2.0?
Yeah.
What are the announcements?
So with the first version of YaK, the first thing we achieved was to have a single tool to be able to automate multiple technologies on multiple platforms. For that, we had to face a first challenge was to have a single repository and a single way to deploy, because as you know, there are plenty of languages, plenty of tools you can use for that. So we provided that as a single solution with one single repository where I can see all my environments, whatever the platform we're running on. With YaK 2.0 now, we are going one step further by really answering to this challenge to providing this capability to everyone, which means at the beginning, YaK was a bunch of YAML files that you had to configure. but you cannot expect everyone to go with VI and edit YAML file. I like to do that on Sunday, but maybe not every day. So what we do with the YaK 2.0 is we bring a user interface on top of that. So you can have really people that are maybe more UI driven, more used to some environment where you work with UI. They can do that through a web interface. And also we have an API, a CLI will also follow. So we can have everyone, which means if you are more comfortable with command lines, calling API, doing REST and stuff like that, you're going to be able to do it with YaK 2.0. If you're more UI driven, you want something which is more a kind of step-by-step process that you can follow with template and so on, you're going to be able to do it with the web interface.
Okay. You already mentioned a lot of the technologies that you already support, like Kubernetes, Oracle, Postgres, and much more. A lot of the developers can do their own thing probably, right? So they can, whatever you said, with YAML, they can use the API, so they can build their own stuff. But are there technologies coming that you will support in the near future that people listening to this, looking at it, should know about as well? Is that coming in the near future? Is that something that will take some longer?
So basically on YaK, we have to see that we have two layers. We have a first layer, which is really the server provisioning, and the second layer, which is provisioning on top of the server, the application that will run on it. So on the server layer, currently we support 3 cloud provider, and we are going to add more on-prem capabilities like VMware and Nutanix, for instance. And on the above layer about the components, so we already manage Kubernetes and some databases, but we're going to add SQL Server for Windows and in the future also for Linux. We're going to add MySQL, Alfresco, web application server like Nginx, GBoss, Tomcat, and stuff like that. So that's the technology that will come over 2025.
Very interesting. So we're here at the Data Community Conference 2024, and you announced a lot of the YaK announcements that you had. Can you give a little bit more information for what that means for this community, for the community here at the conference, and what that will mean in the near future for them?
Sure. As I said, we have these 2 layers in YaK, right? The first layer, which provides these central repositories, the UI, and allows to generate servers, is completely open source. If anyone goes right now on GitLab, they can get the 2.0 version, and they can use it, and they can for free. And so what we want is really to generate a community around YaK, because the YaK, what we call the YaK core, to provision server, is really a basis. And based on this basis, then you can do some kind of Lego bricks. And so we provide some of them, like Oracle and so on. But also any application provider could build his own brick on top to provision his own application at customer using YaK, or in the cloud, or even as a solution to provision easily environment in a SaaS solution. If they want to go SaaS, it could be also a way to go SaaS for their application. So we really are looking for people that want to use it, to test it, to provide us feedback, to help us to extend it, because we are always smarter if we are more around and more using it. And that's what we're trying to foster now, is really to have more people using it and bringing further things into the YaK. So we're really in the idea to share it and have this layer on open source side.
And that's all about the community, right?
Exactly.
So thank you so much for that. Thank you for the interview.
Thank you for your time.
I would advise the people to really look at it and look at your website and look at everything that's going on here. Thank you so much.
Thank you to you.